challenging thing for Leona is to find out where to put her. You know, in the current metagame right now, one of the most popular combinations is that you have a support with an AD carry bottom lane. You're going to have an AP carry in your middle lane, and you're going to have sort of a tanky DPS slash tank AP character top lane. So the role that she kind of fits in is the best to be in the top lane because she does need that extra farm, and she fits that role kind of as Singed. But the problem with her is that I think her early game is kind of too weak right now to go up against a lot of those tanky DPS characters, and that's going to be one of the challenges when playing her because I find that her early game is just too weak. When she's going up against a J4, a Jarvan 4, or an Aurelia, or a Singed even, and it's just really challenging. And that's going to be one of the things to do. The other option is you can put her in a bottom lane and not with your AD support. So you're straying away from that traditional kind of Euro comp that has been so popular in the metagame right now. And you'd have to pair her with like another stunner. So you'd have to pair her with like an Alistar or a Scion or something that's kind of a real pain lane for an AD support to deal with.
You got to put some pressure on them because if you let that AD and the support just farm. The AD carries is going to get beefy, and if you let that go into late game without actually putting pressure on them, it could be a real issue. So it's really good to have, like Garrett said, Alistar, Leona are two these kind of characters that can take some of the damage and just get into the face because AD carries even with the support early game are really squishy. And if you
that'd be my recommendation. I think she works the best in a duo lane because it allows your partner to proc that passive and make the most use of her abilities. In a solo lane top, which is the other option when you're kind of playing that Euro comp metagame, you really don't have the harassment ability and damage output to force that other tanky DPS out of lane. Like when you're up against an Aurelia or even a Singed, you're not going to have the damage or the utility that you're going to need to send that Singed back and go heal. They're basically, you're going to have to, if you're going to go in that top lane, you're going to have to focus on farming. Last hitting is going to be only all you're going to want to do. And the only disadvantage to that is that it just becomes, a really passive game up top. And if the other person, is not harassing you either or forcing you out of lane, it just becomes a farm game up top.
Yeah, farm game, whoever farms the best and whoever gets the ganks in. So Leona, I would recommend her in the dual lane as well. It's possible to go top, it's possible to go mid, but in a dual lane is the best because you're making the most of your stuns and your slows, and your partner can really lay in some damage and really help it out.
No, definitely, and I would definitely pair her with another stun. So you have that double stun lane bottom, and it really is tough for a lot of people to deal with because if you put yourself in a bad position, you overextend, past that midway line in the bottom lane, and your jungler comes in, all of a sudden you can almost get an instant double kill, and it's really easy to land when you have that kind of CC.
The Zenith Blade is great to catch up, put that quick immobilize on them, and then drop your Q to stun them and hit your clips should be on already. So by the time you're ready in that fight, as you'll see in some clips later on. You're constantly stunning and slowing right at the start, so you have lots of time for your allies to do tons of damage and easily pick up a kill or maybe a double if it's
no,
the
definitely.
Situation is right.
So the two builds that I went, so I had the tanky DPS, and then I didn't go for an AP build. What I decided to do was go for more of a Magic Pen build. Now, the theory behind the Magic Pen build is that with a lot of the Magic Pen items, they also have survivability attached onto them. So you have a hunter's guise. So you get magic pen, but you also get health. You have like
realize Crystal Scepter. You get 500 health with the ability damage and a slow. So you're kind of doing using two birds with one stone. Like you're getting health, you're getting magic resist, you're getting beneficial tanking stats, and you're also getting AP. To assist on the small ratio that you get, but it still helps, and also reducing their magic penetration and also magic resist, which will allow your moves to do their full damage instead of trying to increase their overall damage because her skills are not very high. It's about 0.3, 0.4.
And I'm gonna go back to how I talked about how Leona's more of a cross between a Mumu and Jarvan. You're gonna start out building Leona more like a Jarvan build, how you would typically build them. So you're gonna get like your Firestone, your Merc Treads, and your Heart of Gold. Those are usually my early game starting items. It gives her that extra survivability, that mana regen, and of course Merc Treads. So you are the tank. You are gonna be getting CC'd. You're gonna be eating a lot of damage. So that her early game starts off by Jarvan, but as soon as you start progressing towards the mid and late game, your item builds look more like, a Mumu, where you're getting Abyssal Scepter, you're getting, Rylai's. Typically not an item you get on a Mumu, but, that survivability that you really need. And that's kind of how I would best describe Leona.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's what the AP slash Magic Pens and Magic Resist kind of build, more tanky, but more on the offensive side. But you also can play more of a full tank role.
Yep, no, definitely. So you'll see in some of the clips that we have in store for you guys later that I did play her at a tank role. So all I did there was I stacked armor and HP. I get my Sunfire Cape, so I get that extra AoE damage out there. Just a really beefy character. The only problem with that I found is that I'm more just like a punching bag. I don't, I have my utility stuns and whatnot, but they weren't doing the damage that I'd like to see.
Yes, because the magic penetration is not there, and there's no real way of, once they start stacking MR, you're just basically a tank that initiates, and you're relying on your team to do all the damage and basically do all the killing. Leona is a great tank just with the MR and the magic pen. She can really get in there, do some good numbers, and also hold her own.
Well, I found that I didn't have, going that Magic Pen build, which is what, my favorite of the two builds, I really didn't have any survivability problems. Her W is so good. They really actually designed her quite well. It has just enough of a duration, so if, it hits the other enemy champions, you have a 6-second increase in your armor and magic resistance, which is, quite huge once you're getting in there, because a lot of the damage that you're going to be absorbing as any tank is going to be burst. You're gonna get bursted down because you're the first one in. You're initiating. You're determining when that battle happens. So you're gonna be eating that burst. So that extra magic resistance and armor really helps increase your survivability.
Definitely keeps you alive a lot longer, and maybe with a support or something keeping you up, it's great. You're not gonna be taken down so quickly, and you're still doing those numbers with the magic penetration. Compared to just going full tank, which maybe you could take more of a beating and keep harassing more. It's all situational. If your team has a lot of damage and a lot of damage output, maybe you might have to go a little more tanky just to keep that, keep yourself in that battle longer, and in the face of their 80 carries, rush right past the mid lines and go right into that 80 carries face and just interrupt them and make them stop them from casting or using their abilities.
No, definitely. And I also want to go back to how the champion spotlight. So when Leona was first presented, Freak did a champion spotlight, and he showed the way that he played her.
Yeah.
And that was more of a tanky DPS, kind of how you would play Aurelia. So you go Trinity Force, and you'd play her more of a tanky DPS character. And I found that I tried it out. And I found that just it didn't work out so well, because her abilities are actually on, they're on a long enough cooldown that I found that you really couldn't make a good, efficient use of a Trinity Force. Her abilities, they were around, 10 seconds roughly for each of her abilities. So, she doesn't really spam any abilities. And I found that it was kind of a waste of an item on her as opposed to the other things that I could get, in a more of a Magic Pen build.
Yeah, but that was early on. The game changes, and different builds, become more dominant and more powerful. And he was, one of the first people to play it. So
definitely.
His spotlight was a little off, and
I'm sure
and it's still a viable build. I'm sure if the situation's right. But for the most part, I think playing the Magic Penetration is the best bet to go with Leona, or straight up tank. But overall, I would choose the Magic Penetration because you're at least doing some damage, and you're still surviving the team fights well enough.
No, definitely. And I'm sure as we're doing this episode here, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks down the road, even more champion builds will come out that are even better than a Magic Pen build, because people are just playing her more, and that just happens. The metagame changes, people find out new builds, different ways to play her. I even saw that Dyrus posted jungling Leona build. Of course, he said I don't really recommend it, but if you want to do it, here's how you do it. So she can be played in many different ways, just like all the heroes. It's just going to be a matter of time before we find out the best way to play her, I guess.
Yeah. Cool. So that's basically our two kind of builds we use with Leona. We don't play her outside of those ropes too often, but she's a great tank, and she really gets in there. Next up, we're going to show you guys some clips of just some matches we played with Leona, just to kind of show you guys.
Yeah, this is just to showcase some of her abilities. Yeah, different situations you can find yourself in with Leona, and how I basically handled those. So the first clip we have up here, this is going to be a level 1 fight, and we decided to invade their jungle and basically try and go for a kill here. So as you can see here, we'll just let this clip play out here, but there's a lot of chaos that always happens in level 1 fights, and you know what? There's some of my favorite things to do. Like, it just, you get a kill here, you lose a kill. It just, it adds a lot of excitement to that early game as opposed to the passive.
It really puts numbers on the charts. It could go either way, good for you or good for the enemy team. And in this situation, it was great for us. We were up 4-0. And we can kind of just show you what kind of happened at the start of the game. We let you watch it there, and then we'll just kind of, talk what was going on. So we're hiding in the grass, typical, just going in there. We got clairvoyanced, so they knew we were in the grass.
Yeah.
But Garrett X was playing Leona at this time, and he decided not to stay with us, and he stayed up in the wolf camp. So they never saw him on the clairvoyance, and Ash decides to walk right by him, and he just initiates right on Ash. And now the team is distracted. Do we go help Ash, or do we initiate on the rest of the 4? So it kind of scatters them up, and we were able to assist Garrett now and rush to him. And as you see, we'll watch here.
Well, I went for that tanky build, so you can see my hit points here. I got 743 hit points. At level 1, that's huge.
It's quite a bit. It is.
I'm quite the tank at level 1. And yeah, that Ash came right into me, so I'm like, okay, well, if you're going to play like that, I'm
going
just
to walk into me.
jump right on you. So now you can see that this Mordekaiser here is going to try and come up and help him, and the other team members are going to have to get into this fight. And as they do that, you see my team is hiding here in the blue golem grass, and they're going to just, pounce on these guys and make them pay for it.
Yeah.
So as we play this, you see Mordekaiser comes to help, and I just go around. So I lead them all away, and now they come in to try and help, and they get caught. And it was a great bait on our team's part, and it just allowed us to land those 4 kills on an opening fight.
Yeah. And just to cover, we are playing with Leona, Jarvan, also known as J4, Tark, Xin Zhao, and Ezreal. So that's our team comp, and it's definitely working out great for us. The heals from Tarek went stun first. Xin Zhao did his things like 3
yeah,
pounds,
it's a real scary level 1 team, and if you think about some of the characters that you'd hate to fight at level 1, the ones with the stuns are always the most crucial. You look at the Tarks, you look at the Alistars. Those guys are the real game changers at level 1.
Definitely, yep. It immobilizes you long enough because it pops you up or stuns you, and you're not doing anything in that time that you're getting hit. So in level 1, you're not usually pumping out too much health either.
Well, and the big thing too at level 1 is those summoner spells are so huge. So if you have a team where everyone on your team's got Ignite or you got Flash, you can really make use of that at level 1 and really apply some pressure.
Yeah.
And they become quite painful at that level.
Yeah. All right. So next up, I think we have just a gank that happened bottom, where Garrett came up from the side grass on blue side and comes behind, and this is what kind of goes on here.
Yeah, so I come into this battle. I didn't quite work out the timing yet on my W. So you can see here at the beginning, I do have my W on, and it expires before I even enter the battle. Yeah. So I was still learning her abilities.
It's only 3 seconds, so you want to time it just before you go in. But regardless, he comes in and still lands the Zenith Blade. He keeps that, and he's stunned, and as you see there, he drops his Solar Flare. It lands. It doesn't hit the direct stun, but it lands slow, long enough for him to get into killing range and finish the kill.
Yeah, so this is a common scenario you'll see. You'll see your middle character come down for ganks. They see the people that are your bottom lane is overextended, and they make them pay for it really bad. So really caught that Corki and Vayne off guard. Vayne tries to use her ultimate, which makes her partially invisible when she uses her Q, and tries to get away. But of course,
she tries to push back Leona with her shot, and the range on Solar Flare is. It's quite far, and especially with the radius of it, it adds to it. So if you're casting it right at the edge of the radius, the Solar Flare itself has the larger radius, so it extends past the full extent. So as you see here, he casts.
Yeah, I didn't quite get her in the middle there.
Yeah,
I think this was the first game I was playing with her. But even at that,
it still slows it and does damage, and it allowed for the kill. She easily could have got away there if you never landed that. So. As you see once again.
You see Annie just push up there. She's overextended. I come from behind, land the Zenith Blade. Pretty much explodes instantaneously. We get that extra stun, the exhaust that I put on her right there, which I was talking about. Really, just allows you to get that control that you need.
Yeah. And this is a 5-man pre-made that we decided to play just the normals, and just so we have more community.